How's it going, Broadway freaks? Welcome to the Ben Applegate Show, where we talk about the latest things happening in the Broadway community and other stories that are loosely connected. For example, this morning we had the second Cats trailer come out.
Tonight is a magical night, where I choose the cat that deserves a new life.
Going to the ball could get dangerous.
If you remember the disaster from a couple of months ago, with the animation reportedly making children scream and cry in theaters, nothing really changed from this trailer. The animation still looks terrifying. James Corden still has really weird moments like this one.
Right, well that's not going to work, is it? That's what I say to you.
So, among other things, I am curious to know if you guys are planning on seeing it, if you love Cats enough that the animation is something to look over, or if the animation is scaring you so much you don't plan on seeing it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down there. With that said, let's get into some weekly numbers. I might be doing this every Tuesday, I'm not sure. Let's look at the top and bottom gross earnings of shows on Broadway. Going by gross earnings, we have Tina, the Tina Turner Musical, coming in at number 5 with $1.5 million. The Lion King coming in at number 4 with $1.6 million. To Kill a Mockingbird, a straight play, with $1.8 million. Coming in number 3, Moulin Rouge the Musical coming in at over $2 million, and to nobody's surprise, Hamilton number 1 at $2.7 million. Now, one thing that's kind of shocking to me, and I don't claim to be an expert on these numbers at all, but I noticed that number 1 by capacity has come from away with 101.45%, which didn't even appear on the frontrunners list. Hamilton comes in number 2, Tina the Tina Turner Musical coming in at number 3, Moulin Rouge number 4, and To Kill a Mockingbird number 5. Looking at some of the not so fortunate shows, we have Oklahoma coming in at number 5 by gross, Slava's Snow Show number 4, A Christmas Carol, The Lightning Thief, which was surprisingly poorly reviewed, and The Height of the Storm at the number 1, not the kind of number 1 you usually want. The lowest 5 by capacity are Darren Brown's Secret, The Sound Inside, A Christmas Carol, The Great Society, and The Lightning Thief at less than 50% capacity. So some not so great news there. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Do any of these numbers surprise you? What stands out to you? Alright, with that said, let's get to my lightning round. Jeremy O. Harris, writer of Slave Play, made Out Magazine's 2019 Out 100 list, which highlights influential and impactful LGBTQ people. Orange is the New Black Star, and Tony nominee Danielle Brooks announced the birth of her first daughter on November 16th, writing on Instagram, "She's perfect, and man, she looks tiny." Stephen Sondheim's musical Follies has been greenlit for the big screen by Heyday Films and BBC Films. Kristen Chenoweth closed a sold-out run of For the Girls on November 17th, holding 100% capacity for each of the 8 performances it ran. The dark comedy off-Broadway play Hangmen will premiere on Broadway on March 19th, 2020. Tina, the Tina Turner Musical, will host a charity event on January 31st to benefit RAIN, co-hosted by Anna Wintour. And of course, don't miss the Lin-Manuel Miranda interview with Today. With that said, let's get to our big story of the day. The play The Inheritance opened on November 17th, and to call it a play is putting it simply. It's kind of 2 shows. They sell it as part 1 and part 2. You actually have to buy 2 separate tickets and see 2 separate shows to see the whole story. It follows the style of Angels in America, a gay fantasia, it being 2 parts in 6.5 hours. Based on E.M. Forster's novel Howard's End, the show features a group of young gay men in 2015 who search to find a story of modern times that unites and distinguishes the gay community in current times. They act out characters as they create them for their story. They tell 2 stories, each in a different period of history, contrasting the experiences of 2 different gay couples. Throughout the epic tale, there is an emphasis on the rending emotions and complexity of the relationships, and reflecting on the ways the road was paved by past generations for freedom for the younger generation. There's also a sense that community and brotherhood, or sisterhood, isn't quite as strong in the community in the post-AIDS era, and looking for ways to rebuild that. The show originated in London in 2018, and 5 original cast members have transferred along with the Broadway production, including Paul Hilton, Samuel H. Levine, Andrew Burnap as Tony Darling, Tony and Emmy winner John Benjamin Hickey as Henry Wilcox, and Kyle Soler, who won an Olivier for this very performance as Eric Glass. And in the second act of part 2, the 15-person cast is joined by 2-time Tony nominee Lois Smith. Reviews are generally positive, with some definitely mixed reactions. You have some very positive reviews, like Michael Dale from Broadway World saying this reviewer will vouch for the exhilarating emotional clout. David Rooney for The Hollywood Reporter saying the physicality of the production is exhilarating. It stands easily among Daldry's best work for the stage. Matt Winman with AM New York saying it's tempting to compare The Inheritance with Tony Kushner's masterwork Angels in America. However, The Inheritance very much stands on its own as a separate work with a very different sensibility. And then you have some reviewers like Stephen Susskind from New York Stage Review simply calling it pure theatrical magnificence. But of course, not all critics were super on board the 6.5-hour train. Ben Brantley from the New York Times saying, its breadth doesn't always translate into depth. As fine as the acting is throughout, none of the characters here have the textured completeness of those created by Forster and Kushner. Adam Feldman from Time Out criticizing the length, saying The Inheritance is longer than it needs to be, yet the discussion of modern issues sometimes feels thin. Joe Domanowicz from Theater News Online saying, over 6+ hours there are lapses, political debates can turn soapboxy and windy, and character sum-ups at the end is a creaky device. Robert Hoffler of The Wrap saying, The Inheritance isn't a great play or even a very good play. Despite the play's lengthy running time, you will be riveted watching this lurid, weepy, pandering, derivative, and very grand soap opera. So yeah, to say the least, some very mixed reviews. You have pure theatrical magnificence on one side, and then you've got weepy, derivative, pandering on the other side. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, both on the format of the show, the length of it, which is about the length of a plane ride from California to New York, the idea that you have to buy 2 separate tickets and see 2 separate shows. How would you see it? Would you see the first part, eat dinner, and then come see the second part? Or would you see the first part and maybe see the second part a week later? Or would you see the second part first? I don't know. Whatever your choice is, I guess. If you've seen the show, let me know what your thoughts are. You can give your own review. And yeah, that's going to end today's show. If you liked today's video, please leave a like. If you like these little updates on Broadway news, I upload every Tuesday and Friday, so please click the subscribe button and tap the bell for notifications if you have any constructive criticism. This is my first video. I am still working. I'd love to know your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. I will take note of them. And with that said, keep loving Broadway, and I'll see you on Friday.